Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Your boy Road Dogg here with the man, the myth, the legend, the man with two first names, Mr. Karl Bryan, the king himself. Shoots, how are you?
Yo-ho, Road Dogg. That makes me think. The man with the two first names. I used to play hockey with a guy, Ken Kinney, who he won 2 Allen Cups and a bit of a legend in my world. Anyways, when I played for Team Canada, he was our goalie. And to say that he was good was an understatement. The sad news is that he recently passed away of lung cancer. And no, he was not a smoker. He was a fireman, poor bugger. But anyways, ode to Ken Kinney, the man with two first names here, bud. What's going on, Road Dogg?
Well, we got a bunch of questions to get to here today, and I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in, if that's okay. Or the small talk, but in the pre-show. And if you're not part of the pre-show, well, stay tuned all the way to the end, and you can learn more. How's that for my announcer voice?
Shoot, come on. Let's let the cat out of the bag. What they really missed was my reenactment of Coming to America 2, the prince, and then what became the king of Zamunda, Akeem. I don't know his last name, but I did my best Akeem, whatever, impersonation, which was Road Dogg went on to tell me it was absolutely horrific. But anyways, that's what you missed, folks. You didn't miss much. There you go.
Thankful that you didn't try to impersonate Eddie Murphy with his laugh as well. So that would have been horrific.
All right, shoot.
All right.
Let's go.
Here it is. First question on the board. I had a guy refer me to a prospect. They're looking for a coach, and my accountant sent a reply saying, "This is who you should speak to and who I trust as a coach." My question is, how would you reply?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. How would I reply? So, an accountant, so basically, I guess a joint venture relationship here, and the accountant is sending off a referral, or it doesn't necessarily need to be a joint venture agreement, I guess. It would actually, not too long ago, Harvard Jim, one of my legendary clients, hopefully you'll be listening to this. He got a Harvard law degree, which I constantly tell him how cool that is, and that's how he got the name Harvard Jim given to him by me. But anyway, so I actually helped him with this exact scenario some time ago, but basically, I think I know how I do this. Like if I could pull up that email, that'd be super good, but I don't know where that is. Look, let me just freestyle. So the guys, let's just call the guy Dave. Okay. So how would I reply? Like I would start with, thanking Mr. Accountant, right? And again, I think that's, make sure you do that because you're being referred. There's a etiquette here that I'd kind of be following here without overdoing it. Anyway, thanks, Mr. Accountant. Your trust in me is very much appreciated, and then I'd place a period there and then new paragraph entirely to make sure that is totally separated. What did I say? Dave. Okay. So Dave Smith, Dave, whatever, let's call him Dave : So now I'm addressing him specifically. Great to virtually meet you. Okay. This is an email. Great to virtually meet you. I'm pretty slammed this week, working on a few projects, but I'm excited to meet you. And we'll make some time. I can't do today or tomorrow. It's important. What can't you do? I can't do today or tomorrow. Even if you can, you got nothing to do for the next 48 hours. You don't write that. I can't do today or tomorrow, but Thursday and Friday can work, as well as maybe early next week, right? Something like that. If you're interested in discussing your business, and then I would say in ways it could be immediately improved, message me a few times that'll work and we can lock one in. Actually, now I go to a new paragraph and I would say something to the effect of, how would I word it? Alternatively, Alternatively, to save us some email tag, grab a time here on my online calendar. And then, of course, she'd put a link. And then, uh, excited to chat, Karl. Right. So that's the way that I would do it. But, basically, what did I say in there? I was busy. Okay. It's a superpower. I talked about immediate improvements in his business. Right. I thanked the JV partner. I mentioned that his, what did I say? Like his trust in you. That trust, I think, is an important word, and I would want to emphasize that and put that in there. Just in case he didn't notice that the accountant trusts you, right? Like you're like, hey, the accountant trusts me over everybody else, right? Like I would explicitly say that. And then actually the second bit there, I go, how did I word it? To save us some email tag. Now this is a beauty. Like what I'm doing is because what do you want them to do? You want to remember what's the goal here is to get them to hit the damn calendar link and jump onto your calendar, right? Because you're telling them what to do, her what to do, and then they're following. This is a great way to start the relationship. But if you just go, you just send grab a time on my calendar, it can be a little bit aggressive in this lead generation, before we've met one another. So to save us some email tag, do this. So either send me a few times that work for you, and I put a few, not one, right? So I can grab an option, and then it's like to save us some time, click the link, and then I put the link anyway. So that's, I don't know, that's the way what I just said is basically what I'd be saying in the email, but there's very important, the trust, the fact that I'm super busy, or just you always got to drop that in there. I'll tell you what let me just tell you, remember, a real mentor can tell you what not to do. And what I see to be insanely common, don't send an email groveling and saying, I can't wait to get together with you. This is going to be amazing. We're all going to make so much money. We're going to sing Kumbaya. We're going to talk about how blue the sky is and how puffy the clouds are. Do you know what I mean? And like, whenever you're available, I'm available. My gosh, I will move rocks. Cliffs, mountains to get with you. Do you know what I mean? And even I would go as far. I've talked about this a little in the past, but again, if you guys have got emails for me, I can ridiculous predictability. You'll be able to find one that says this. But I say, like, if you're not interested for whatever reason, feel free to disregard this entirely, right? But it's like an inbuilt takeaway. It just immediately says, look, I'm good. I mean, I'm not looking, even if the accountant, I'm not sitting here looking for things to do. I'm not looking at my open calendar going, jolly wheat, realtors, what am I saying? But anyways, it's an inbuilt takeaway. You get the idea. It's just, remember you're going to high school and you had a girlfriend and all of a sudden all these girls wanted to date you. Do you remember that vibe? And it wasn't, again, something explicitly said between you and her. You just got the vibes you knew. All of a sudden it was a little bit of extra attention. All of a sudden, the phone call, whatever it was. And then you're single and then not so much, right? The exact same dynamic, the same two people, the same school, the same friends, the same parties, the same dances, etc. And when you got a girlfriend, you get lots of attention from the other girls and that it's one that, geez, they'd like to be dating you too. And then you're single, not so much. It's the same thing. So it's like being busy is a hack. I talk about it often. I don't see it used very well, but coaches it's like instead of using busy, they use desperation instead. Don't do that. So there you go, Road Dog. That's how I'd answer it. I hope but pretty straightforward, but don't grovel, communicate in a strong way. But, there's some points that I'd bring across. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a good point. Don't grovel. If anything, if you see a girl, you just point at her and do that finger like, hey, come here. So that works out.
This is true. I know I Road Dog, swear to God, that is how I met my wife. I swear had a couple drinks in my belly, not going to lie. My wife is playing pool. She's sitting down across the pool table. And by the way, and every time we have some friends over and they don't know us, of course, how did you guys meet? And I'm like, you got to know this story. And conveniently, my wife has got a slightly different interpretation of what happened, but I do not. And that is exactly what happened. She was across. I literally took my finger and I go like this, which very sadly, and maybe I should not be saying this, but that was a move that I would try. I think I suffered from overconfidence possibly. Anyway, that's how I met my wife. So there you go, Road Dog.
Well,
that's it.
And this proves one thing, that if you tell yourself a story long enough, you believe it to be true.
Let's keep going. I should have not said that. Let's go.
Okay, this is a good one. I love this question. How do you handle the debate of price versus value? Oh man, this could be a rabbit hole. Buckle up.
Oh Lordy. How do I handle debate of price versus value? So I'd be interested if they mean like selling coaching or training your clients to do so. But I guess, you know what, it's probably the same for both. So look, here's what I'd say. Like, think of a book, right? I write a book and price tag, what, $29, right? $30. It could be more and it could be less, but roughly 29, right? But what's the value, right? Like the price is 29, but the value could be, you know, ridiculous. So I believe that this is a hack. Like, rich people aren't sitting here debating it, which I think is the way they asked it, right? You're just understanding it, right? So like, and my wife, like, we'll go to the bookstore. My wife, she like often, right? She's like, God, you're going to buy more books? Like, you really need another book? And I just, you know what, the chances, the reality is I'm going to get, you know, excited about a book and then I'm probably not going to read it, right? Well, or it's going to be a year or two before I get to it. But if I do read it and I pull one thing out, it can be worth whatever it costs me. And by the way, I just like to have a big bookshelf, which I'm guessing a lot of you guys do. Road Dog does. You know, you should. So again, and it's training my, you know, like I want to be learning. So anyway, so I think that that's very important, right? So I'm not sitting here worrying about the $29 or thinking about the $29 is completely, I don't care if it's 129. I wouldn't even bat an eyelid and buy the damn book because the value, and I wouldn't buy it without the value, either a recommendation or reading the back cover, reading the inside cover, knowing the author, etc. Right? So, you know, it's like Warren Buffett, right? He talks about value investing versus growth investing. Value investing means that you know a company is undervalued, so you buy it knowing the market will see the value over time. So effectively, the day that you buy it, you earn money. Or like, let's say that there's a house for sale, and let's just say that it's you know, don't assume, but you know with 100% certainty or very close to that this is a $500,000 house, and you can sign the paperwork. How would that happen for $400,000? How would that happen? I want you to think sick grandmother, sick husband, you know what I mean, or grandfather, grandmother, whatever the dynamic is, and they just need to get rid of this house, you know, because, you know, Dave or Mary's never walking through that door again, and they can't stand the thought of living there. And not that you'd ever take advantage of people in that situation, by the way. Everybody cool down. But you get the idea. If you can buy a house for $400,000, then it's worth $500,000. You make $100,000 as soon as you sign that paperwork, right? So think, otherwise stated, money is made when you buy, not when you sell. Huge wealth hack right there. And people screw that one up with ridiculous predictability, right? So again, it's made when you buy, not when you sell. Like Bitcoin, right? It's sexy. I wrote about it, you know, to death over the last couple of weeks because it's so sexy, delusional, and everybody loves it. So I try to use it as a metaphor for other lessons, quite frankly, if you want to know what I'm doing. But like, that's growth investing big time. You can't use it for anything. You currently can't buy anything with a Bitcoin, right? So like, this is totally growth in, there's not value, it's the exact opposite of value investing. So call it, you know, growth investing, right? And it might go to the moon, right? You know, but that's just not the way I do it. Or, you know, like, and again, they say that you're going to be able to buy a Tesla. Elon Musk has come out. They've invested insane money. So like, if you believe that to be true, if you had the inside scoop and you knew that to be true, and then your opinion, and way better than your opinion, but you know, your educated opinion, you actually did some homework, was that as soon as Tesla allows you to buy Teslas with Bitcoin, you think that it's going to go through the roof. Let's just say that it's $50,000 as I speak to you, and you think that alone will take it to $65,000 because now it actually has tangible value. You can actually do something productive with it. Well, you might think that that makes it undervalued. Well, this would be an example of you taking the approach of value investing with Bitcoin. But currently, if you can't do anything with it, this is impossible, right? Like, it's just growth investing big time, right? So, you know, again, if it's 50, I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again because this is, you're investing in Bitcoin, and let's say you put, you know, 10 grand into it, Your goal is to what? Double your money. Again, like you invest in the stock market, you make an 8% return, you're crushing it. So if you could double your money in Bitcoin, this is amazing. Well, you take 10 grand and turn it into 20. You take 50 and turn it into 100. You take 20, turn it into 40. You got zero control, right? Like, and these idiot influencers, like they're out there and they'll spit out diversification. You got to invest in Bitcoin because it's part of diversification, and that's how you build wealth. Okay, diversification is to lower risk, not build wealth, right? You follow me there? Diversification is to lower risk, not build wealth. Wealth is created with one word, focus, right? So if you wanted to build wealth, you do the opposite of diversify. If you wanted to protect yourself, you were 80 years old, you would Diversification is for them. When you're young and you want to build and you want to crush it, it's focus, right? And that's not to say you shouldn't diversify. That's a complicated topic. Frankly, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But so diversification, just what I really want to impress upon you here, guys, educate yourself. Again, whatever you do, please don't listen to the damn, the influencers. But remember, don't ask, what do I do? Ask yourself, what do I want? Again, hack on steroids. You want wealth, well, then you should be, thinking focus. If you want to protect yourself so that you don't run out of money when you're 88 years old, then diversification. And once again, I'm stating this in a black and white way, and it's a very gray matter, but you get the idea, right? But and it's different because I'm talking to a business owner. I'm talking to a business coach who is talking to business owners, right? Like I've got a buddy who plays, played in the NHL on my street, pretty good buddy. He's texting me about the game and, the bus ride and the plane ride and everything else. And like the conversation with him, it's very different than with a business owner, right? Because like if you're a professional hockey player and you're making, say, $5 million $5 million a year. Well, for each million, by the way, which I think is important, expect them to take home about 330 grand. So like a $5 million per year hockey player or football player, baseball player, whatever, is really bringing home about $1.5–2 million, right? They're not bringing home $5 million. I promise you, it sounds a million times more exciting than it is. But the bottom line is diversifying and, multiple streams of income with that, like with an employee type of thing, it would be a different conversation, right? But a business owner, which is what we're here to talk about and what I'm, what I should be talking about, quite frankly, I got to stay in my lane. I'm not pretending to be the employees, you go talk to somebody else, ain't me. The business owner should be all in. And by the way, don't listen to me. Why don't we listen to Bill Gates, a guy who's done pretty well. Warren Buffett, a guy who's done pretty well. Jeff Bezos, in my opinion, freaking genius on steroids, who's going to go down and leave Steve Jobs for dead as far as, that iconic business owner. They went all in. Bezos isn't out there, investing in real estate and talking about it and advising on it, etc. Right? So anyways, they're just simply bigger opportunities for you and most definitely your clients of Bitcoin. It's sexy. It's delusional. It's a total freaking distraction. I encourage you. I actually communicated, like my accountant, we were back and forth, and he said, honestly, I'm not even looking at it. Right. So, and my accountant, he took a company public. This is a smart guy. Right. So anyways, okay. So where do we go? So I just outlined semi kind of problem addict kind of problem, right? So let's go to solution. You guys have heard me say this before. If you follow any of my stuff, and I'm going to say it again, and you hear me say it in the future, and Rogue Dog probably knows exactly what I'm about to say. Take $10,000, learn to advertise, experiment, create a feedback loop. If you don't know feedback loop, just Google my name and feedback loop, and I'd be surprised if it wouldn't pop straight up. But the bottom line, create a feedback loop for your 10 grand. And basically what I want you to do is take $10,000 of advertising and turn it into $20,000, right? And then now that you have $20,000, what do? Don't go buy a BMW. Don't start flying first class and being a big shot. Take your 20 grand and buy more advertising and improve it. Or hire a staff member, hire a lead generator, etc. But you've got full control over that. I think it might have been last week or the last podcast, the last couple I've talked about that. So I'm going to stop there, but you get the idea. Bitcoin, go to things that you can control. The important word there is control, right? Just do it. Look, money is a game of doubles. You double a dollar 20 times, you get $1 million. You take $1 million, you double it 10 times, you get $1 billion. Take the energy, the money, your focus and put it on things that you can control. Get your clients to spend it on time, like things that they can control. Like and I know this, business coaches are having conversation with their clients about Bitcoin, right? Like, I don't want you to do that. Hey, you do whatever the heck you want, by the way. But I would be encouraging you big time to focus that time, energy, and magic on things that they can control. So it's not Bitcoin. It's about something that they can't control, right? It's not Tesla stock price. It's things that they can't control, right? On the price of their house, things that they can't control. Don't worry about it. Spend 10 grand on advertising and turn it into 20 grand. Create a feedback loop. This is something you can control. So that's what I'd say, Road Dog. Price versus value. It's understanding, that when you buy a book for $30, it is worth so much more than that. When you hire a staff member and you pay them, 50 grand, 100 grand, or whatever the number is, understanding that if the price is 100 grand, but what's the value that they're going to bring, right? Like, and this is something you have full control over. So that's the difference between, and that's, I think, an important conversation with clients. But the operative word there is control. There you go.
Before I go to a follow-up question that I have for you, I just have that just made me realize something, because you talk about hiring, right? What's your literally 60-second or less answer to, this is going to be impossible, to when people say it's like you got to work on your weaknesses or whatever. I believe in hiring your weaknesses and just focusing on your strengths. Like what camp are you?
Hunter, I love it. I think that's, you couldn't have said it any better. Tight, boom. I agree. So that, hire your example. I am big picture on steroids. If you look at key staff that I put in place, and literally had a very lengthy conversation this weekend about this, I hire, think of this, mathematician, analytical, engineer types to surround me, because the metaphor that I give you is I create messes and then I need people behind me to clean them up. And then I'm with fear of, I don't want to sit here and put myself on any grandiose level, right? Like, again, these guys that I'm mentioning today, to say they leave me for dead would be understatement on steroids. But I will tell you that I have absolutely zero goal to, like, this podcast, right? You can just see the downloads. They're right there, right? Approaching 6 figures of downloads. I've never advertised it for 5 seconds. I've never, apart from, I'm mentioning the bottom of my email, which I do a horrible job of doing that. I wake up in the morning and I think about becoming an influencer for less than 1 second every day and that's the day, the week, the month, the year, the quarter. I have zero interest. What I am doing is I am building a company, right? Like a real company. And by the way, I am a sales and marketing guy, but I work very, very hard on is becoming more data-driven, mathematician, engineering, analytical and I'm just, and again, I'm improving every day. My goal isn't to become magical at it tomorrow. And mastery is being better than I was yesterday, right? So anyway, so that's my answer on that. You nailed it in one. And if anybody's interested in what I'm doing, and some are and some aren't, and either is fine. But I tell you, I see a lot of people out there trying to be popular and trying to, get attention, which is fine. And that there's a place for that. But if you're going to get some attention, I would encourage you to quickly segue into building value for clients, right? Like, instead of becoming popular, why don't you make your clients popular? Some of the top coaches in the world are our clients, and they pay our fees. And I'm happy for them to be, you know what I mean? This big Harvard Jim and NASA Jen. She worked for NASA when she's 23 years old. I'm happy for them to have the profiles and be super popular. I'm not interested. I'm building a company with real staff, real data, real scoreboards that are all improving on a regular basis. And we're hiring, we got software engineers working for us, et cetera. So that's the answer, Road Dog. That's my answer, bud, but you nailed it.
Yeah, I think we're both the same in that way, right? It's sort of like we're the big picture vision guys, and we need the implementers to actually fulfill that vision that we have. That's the same in my agency.
Yep.
You want to hire
100%.
us to run your campaigns? I'll help you create the campaign and I'll have my team build it out for you. But same. Okay, so now going back to the price versus value, is there a specific, or is there something, a market or space kind of that you see that there is a pretty significant gap between price and value?
Ooh, where I see a gap between price and value. Look, a wealth hack on steroids, okay, is one word. I learned this from Tony Robbins. Proximity, right? What does he say? Proximity is power, I believe, is what I remember from this. We go back 20 years ago. Like I may have mentioned this recently, not sure. Like I had a conversation with a guy. When I say conversation, this was a 90-minute unbelievable phone call that could have changed things for me, quite frankly. Like he's worth $100 million on his worst day. One of the first investors in Salesforce, refers to Mark Minioff as Mark. What a great guy, he says. And I'm like, but anyway, so, and what I'm trying to build, by the way, why is that relevant? Like Salesforce.com, if there were to be a business, you were to say, like, what's the company that you're looking at? And when I say emulate, gosh, I want to be careful here. That's a $100 billion company. And again, that's, leaves me for dead on steroids. But at the same time, that's where I'm looking. So when this guy's one of the first investors, I'm asking questions. And I very strategically got this call. Like I worked on this for 90 days to get this call. And I didn't I knew that I wasn't trying to get the phone call today, tomorrow, next week, right? Like I was like in a methodical way. And then, by the way, when I got him on the phone, don't think that I didn't have a strategy, right? Like in that, no matter what it was that he said, there were going to be certain things that I was going to say. And my goal was to provide some value to the conversation, to make sure that he knew that I was the guy who was going to, if you're him, the threat is that he's going to give some great advice and the guy's not going to do anything, right? Like that's annoying. I wanted to make sure that I had a couple clear examples and stories where I could talk about learning something, deploying immediately, making a little bit of a mess, improving, and then ending up with something very, very special at a later time. That's a story that I know that he would have been like, oh, wow, cool, right? And by the way, it added value. It wasn't just some, hyperbole, blah, 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 waffling off story, right? Wasn't talking to him about coming to America too, although I would have loved to. But anyway, so, it just had just a conversation that was just like, we'll see, ask me in 3 years. Cause again, all this stuff is very, very big picture, but I'd say that was a 7-figure phone call for me. And by the way, there's a follow-up, and I have, again, strategically gone about following up, not in an annoying, pathetic way, or maybe you'd have to ask him, but I'm pretty sure that I've continued to add some value, and give him what I think that a guy worth $100 million would be looking for. Anyway, so a little bit, so look, price versus value. What am I getting, right? Like, what am I getting at? Okay, so I went off on a tangent, like proximity, your environment matters, right? So what is something like price versus value? I would absolutely be spending some time thinking about your environment. And I would challenge you to say that your environment sucks. And this is something you should be working on, very tangibly. Like the greatest innovation by Tesla, right? If I ask you that, 9 out of 10 people are going to say the electric car, right? Let me tell you, they didn't invent, they didn't create the first electric car and now everybody's got one. That's not the magic. The relationship between the consumer, or maybe better word, the proximity to the consumer, that's the magic of Tesla. Okay. So Steve Jobs, but where did he get it from? Steve Jobs. Look, he didn't advertise. He's famous for not advertising, right? One of the things that he did not long before he passed away, by the way, that is underappreciated is that he took advertising and marketing dollars and he allocated them towards retail space in a shopping mall. When he announced that, everyone gasped. They thought, is he gone freaking nuts, right? Like, is this guy, what the hell is he doing? Well, you tell me how it's worked out, but let me just tell you, it's worked out unbelievably well if you don't know. And understand this, that when you walk into an Apple store, it's a bit of an experience, right? He built proximity. And by the way, everybody gasped but I'd say one guy, and that's Elon Musk, right? So what did? He effectively copied it. And frankly, it's the silver bullet for Tesla. And I think he's taken it to a whole nother level, right? Um, so, okay, what am I saying? Where do you see them? They don't, the Tesla stores aren't in like the strip mall in Southeast Nowheresville, right? They are in very, formidable and impressive places. So I think that shopping malls, we're living through a pandemic. Shopping malls are like literally decimated, but do you think people don't want to? There's no more shopping malls being made, but the existing ones aren't going to disappear. Like the shopping mall as we know it is a thing of the past. Make those think about it. Let me be clear here. But that being said, this is a good thing because I think the price has gone down dramatically. The openings are, incredible. But they're not going to disappear. Like I was at the mall, Road Dog, right? Like where we live, the most popular mall on the weekend. I got a 7-year-old daughter. I had to park a kilometer away to get in the damn thing, right? Like people are just, they want to get out and about, and that mall was chock-a-block. So I think the price of retail space versus the value is not aligned. And by the way, Jobs and Musk, even at its heyday, they believe that in primo locations. So I think that would be an example, right? So, I went to go test drive with my wife a little while ago now, but went to a high-end winery, and this is where we test drove the Tesla, right? So again, and importantly, it's a temporary location. So you can imagine that they either got it for free or I don't know what the relationship was, but believe me, that the Tesla folks brought some people to the winery, and that's where the winery got value. And then the winery brought people to the Teslas, and this is where the Tesla got value. There wouldn't have been a huge amount of dollars exchanged either way, right? But what's important is the advertising dollars that most companies are spending on Facebook and whatnot. Tesla were spending on experiences because to get the cars there and get the salespeople there and book all of this, believe me, it's not for the faint of heart, right? And you're putting miles and kilometers on the car. So the bottom line, but all that being said, you better have the right product service or maybe like a back end in order to do that successfully. But where's your client doing something like that? Are you thinking about in your quiet time ways to take advantage of all that free space in the local shopping mall? And before you decide to do that, like I said, I went there on the weekend, so this is top of mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Like there's people everywhere in this and it's the most popular shopping mall, right? There could be one 3 kilometers down that's totally empty, but I can tell you this place was chock-a-block. And it made me think to myself, damn, you know what I mean? Like that empty store, somebody's probably going to be able to get that for a song. So I think that would be an example. And again, the fact that, Jobs and Musk kind of saw this, everybody was gasping and they were running towards it. I think that there's power in that, right? So look, maybe this is a little like, what if so let's just talk to a specific business coach, because now maybe what I'm doing is I'm getting a little too, talking about Tesla and Apple might not be relevant, and that's fair. Look, what if I had a strategy for a business coach? And again, value versus price is what I'm kind of, rambling on about here. If I had a Facebook strategy and it's going to cost you $1,000 a week, and you'd have to run it for 10 weeks to make it work with a feedback loop, right? We're just going to take the money and buy a BMW like an idiot. You're going to provide a feedback loop, and you're really going to build an asset and build something that works. If I had that for a business coach, would you do it? Right? Well, let me give it to you. Okay. Only difference is it's not Facebook, and Facebook is sexy. Facebook is delusional. Or it's not, it's got that sexy delusional, thing that I always talk about, right? Like everybody wants the Facebook ad campaign. Well, here's a strategy that will work that I personally have used to the tune of, many 7 figures in coaching. Here's what you do. Go down to the local chamber, speak to the head salespeople, go to the magazine, speak to the owner, speak to the people who sell the ads, go to the newspaper, go to the owner, go to the people who sell the ads, go to the coupon book, go to the owner, go to the people who sell the ads, go to the accountant, go to the accountants, if that works. I just got 10 accountants, right? Go to them too. Go to the online directory. I'm just B2B guy locally, okay? Go up to them. What I'm about to go is my strategy that if you followed me, you might have heard me talk about, but buying clients, Okay. And again, I'm going to give it to you in a silver platter, but I bet you won't do it. There's my challenge if you didn't work it out, right? What you do is you go to the sales guy or the person that owns the coupon book or the newspaper, the magazine, and I want you to buy clients. Remember, when I go to 7-Eleven and I want milk and butter and whatever else for my family, I don't go up to the guy working behind the till and say, hey, I think my kids are going to like this. I come back tomorrow and pay if they like it. And if not, I'll bring the milk back. How's that sound? Right? They laugh at you. Okay. Well, you got to take that same approach. So the same way that if I needed milk and bread, I guarantee I can get it, provided I have a car and a 7-Eleven near me, which is a 90. If I live in Western society, that's a guarantee, right? Well, I walk in and I pay. I whip out my credit card, and it's just an obvious one. I want you to do the same with those niches. Just whip out $1,000, and if 5,000 is too much for you to swallow, go 500, whatever. But whip out money and pay them up front. And the way that looks is you pay $1,000 per referral. You trust this guy, and this guy says he's going to give you a shot, or this gal, give him $1,000 and say, I trust you. I want to pay in advance for my first referral. Again, and by the way, you got to do it. And yes, you will meet the guy who you will offer that, and you'll go, oh my gosh, this feels slimy or whatever. Oh my gosh, right? Whatever. You can either, I'm telling you, I've had that happen, and then I've had the opposite happen to the tune of 7 figures in coaching clients. So do as you may. I bet you won't do it, but that's what I'd be doing. And I wouldn't be doing Facebook ads. You don't realize that Facebook ads, like look, it may be the strategy for you, but I would dare say not. Just take that approach for your own coaching business, and you can absolutely crush it. So then Road Dog, very importantly, like, why won't they do it? Like, I just gave you a strategy that I promise you will work, but what you've got to do to pull that off is something very, very important. You got to believe in yourself, right? Like, you need to walk in there with a little bit of mojo, right? Either fake it till you make it, or just walk in there thinking about the suicides, the depression, the divorce, the separations. You guys, if you read my email, just go to the PSs. That's what I'm talking about. The addiction, etc. Dad in the fetal position, being a bad dad, not because he wants to be a bad dad, because he's depressed. He's like, this is not working. It's too much. Running a business can be very, very overwhelming if you don't have a plan. Right. So anyways, we all know that. I'm not going to waffle. You got to, in order to do that, you got to have some mojo, I'll call it. So there you go, Road Dog. That's what I think, where did I go there? Kind of a tangent, but, where do I see a gap? I just literally on the weekend, I walk into a mall and there was a gap there for me big time, where I'm like, wow, it's a lot of people here and a number of closed shops. I bet that Steve Jobs or Elon Musk walked in here, they'd probably think very serious about plunking some computers or cars in that spot. So maybe, so then you're like, oh my gosh, my client's never going to be able to afford that. I'm never going to be able to afford that. Well, look around and, a pop-up kiosk, right? Like, that can happen in a mall. It'll be very inexpensive. You can run it as a test. If it works really, really well for your client or for you, you could then move into the brick and mortar location, right? Which is probably going to be too much for a business coach. So think pop-up kiosk or something. So there you go. I think that's an example that every book you go to Amazon or you walk into a bookstore, every book in there that's worth its salt for $30 is worth you buying every day. It's got to be the worst book in the world to not be worth $30. But that being said, there's a time factor. You don't want to have to read the entire book in order to find the value. You should be able to rip through the table of contents, read the back cover, and maybe do a little bit of homework on the author, and that should tell you if this is a book worth purchasing. But there you go, man. I like that question. I agree with you, man. That's really good.
Okay, so real quick, you talked about Musk, you talked about Jobs in relation to quote unquote creating an experience here. Can you just what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean by experience?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What do I mean? So like Facebook do Facebook advertise? And for the most part, the answer is absolutely not, right? Very little. Their budget for whatever hundreds of billions of dollars they're worth, they spend no money on advertising, almost embarrassing, right? Where do they spend their money? On the experience, right? Like tagging. Costs a lot of money for the engineers to go in and make it so easy for you to go and tag your buttons, right? You don't realize that. The albums for all your photos. You could have a photo from the holiday on this summer and the holiday from that winter and the ski trip and when the kid was a baby, etc. Marketplaces, big one. Groups have done unbelievable things for the users and even more for the advertisers. When Facebook spent the $50 million on a Facebook ad, they promoted groups, which is incredibly telling. Got to be smart enough not to see the ad. I want you to matrix the ad, think past the ad, and go, what does Facebook advertising groups mean, right? And if you're like me, you advertise heavily on Facebook. I'm thinking, hey, they're doing it for that reason, right? The news feed, the algorithm, making that more. So all of this stuff, Road Dog, it's all about the experience, right? Like, look, Facebook have a relationship with 2 billion people, right? It's the most successful quote unquote thing ever created times a lot, right? Look, 2 billion is more than any religion. It's more than the population of any one country, at least that I know of. It's the most. The only thing that rivals it, frankly, is soccer, which might have more, but Facebook will at some stage pass it, I think, or maybe it'll go to 0 one time because they're making some errors, whatever. But undeniable that Facebook is a very, whether you hate them or love them or whatever, completely irrelevant, right? It's not what I'm talking about. It to not understand what they're doing. Like, we're spending a lot of money. Some, work that I did in an email that I sent to my team on Saturday was all about experience, right? So I want you guys to be thinking about when you walk into an Apple store, it is an experience. When you go to the winery and you drive a Tesla, that is an experience. When you walk into a Lamborghini dealership, in sweatpants, you get ignored, and that's part of the experience, but maybe a conversation for another day. But when people become, okay, let me get more granular. I might be, again, rising, when I talk about Tesla, and I talk about Facebook, and I talk about Apple, what's important, or what I'm hoping, I'm trying to take those higher level lessons and then you dummy them down and go, okay, well, what does that mean? Again, when I look at the Facebook ad, $50 million during the Super Bowl, I'm not looking at an ad. I want you to matrix it, 360 it, and go, what does this mean, right? To advertisers, to me, to usage. What is Mark Zuckerberg thinking when he spends $50 million and that's what he chooses to advertise, right? Very huge power in that. But let me get granular. Let me get, kind of go, micro versus macro or whatever I'm trying to say. Look, when somebody becomes a client of you, and I'll assume, again, you're a business coach or whatever you're doing, what's the experience that they provide with you, right? Are you doing VIP nights for your clients, or are you working really hard so that your clients don't meet one another in case you piss one of them off, right? Or like, are you doing wine and cheese events, right? Are you introducing your clients to other local partnerships, even if one's working with you and one's not? Are you helping them form partnerships, right? Which, by the way, I'm not saying you should do this. This is significantly more consulting than coaching, to be clear, but there's absolutely a hybrid required, in my opinion, if you want to be highly successful at it. But like, are you going doing that and making the intro? And I'm not suggesting you have to, so calm down, right? But I'd be doing it. I believe that would be improving the experience with my clients, right? Like I built a $5.5 million coaching company. One of the what do I call it? Like the lead components to the sales process or to the product was that we put all of our clients, again, clients all over the place or coaches all over, and they all had, they all had their 10 to 25 clients. Well, all of them went into one room at the same time. Like, we were trying to separate them. We were trying to bring them together for leverage and the social proof and everything else. And was there an unhappy client in there? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Whatever. Like, did that matter? Did that ruin the event? Did the person stand up and say, you guys are full of crap? Right? Like no. And if somebody did, I don't, you know what? Like, it's just not going to happen, right? Unless you're really, like, the fact that you took all your clients and had the confidence and you put them all in a room just says everything about you. And they're like, this guy can't lack integrity. And this can't not be a good quality program. We're at the Sheraton, a very successful hotel that must have cost a lot of money. And by the way, there's lots and lots and lots of people there, right? But anyway, and then I would get up and I would do, we did, sales secrets, and we did leadership, et cetera. So experience is what I'm getting at, right? Like with your coaches, like what we try to do is we try to create a community. When somebody cancels our program, I hear it all the time. I don't want to leave because I'm going to miss everybody. I'm going to miss the community, etc. So we try, and we are not perfect, and we are improving every day. We try to make it fun. We have a very proactive and very progressive community and environment, and we look to improve it all the time. So that's what we're thinking about. As I hang up here and I get on with my day, I guarantee throughout the day today, I'm going to be thinking about improving the quote unquote experience with my clients, right? But who cares about me? Who cares about Tesla, Elon Musk, the late great Steve Jobs, whoever? What about you? What are you doing to make it fun for your clients to work with one another? And are you, and I bet I'm right on this one, but you're actually trying to keep your clients away from one another because, oh my goodness, whatever happens if, right? Like, don't think like that. Just trust me on this one. Start introducing all of your clients and then just see what happens. And I promise you, and then you're like, well, I don't have enough. Okay, well, get to frickin' work and do what I talked about earlier. Go spend $1,000 at a time to go build the relationship with the accountant, et cetera. So anyways, that's Road Dog. Yeah, experience hugely. If I owned a retail, I used to own a hockey shop, right? If I want to compete with Amazon and Hockey Monkey and all these really successful online plays, I had to create an experience in my shop to compete with those guys. Otherwise, they're going to go online and buy it for cheaper, right? So if you have a skateboard shop, you got to make it an experience. So that's the answer, Road Dog. That's a great one, by the way, and a great question. That experience is absolutely huge. And it comes back, Road Dog. We talk about people want to be educated, but they also want to be entertained. The experience is a lot in and around the entertainment. So, and then you're like, yeah, but I'm not Eddie Murphy. I'm not this, I'm not that. Look, you're going to get better at it. You want an example of that? Go read. You could just go look at my One Thing series and look at the emails that I wrote for the first 25 days. And then look at the emails that I wrote in the last 25 days. And I think that you're going to agree with, and I get emails about this all the time, that my emails have got significantly better. They've got significantly tighter. They get longer in a lot of ways, but whatever. You know what I mean? But there's a little bit of a system, and I can punch one of those out in less than 30 minutes comfortably, depending upon the topic, sometimes 15 minutes. So that's an example, right? I used to suck at it, and now I'm much better. You'll be the same. So your environment, that experience, you're going to suck at it until you don't, and you'll get better and better and better. Remember, you got a 10-year, imagine how amazing you'll be after 10 years, but most people don't think like that. And that's why you're never going to be Jeff Bezos, because that's all he thinks of. So I don't know. There you go, Road Dog. What do you think, bud?
Well, going out for a beer is an experience all in of itself with you as well. It's like having me in Utah sitting around for an hour before, Karl actually appears. But anyways, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
Yeah.
Remember that one? Like, we're sitting there and it's like, well, he said any minute, so an hour ago. Anyways, aside from being a horrible guy for being punctual with his friends for a beer, can you give us one thing from today's show that people can implement? Probably that what you just finished with. Right?
But I think, look, experience, I think, is magic. Look, let's just go. Look, there's a few different things that I hope, again, and I really want to emphasize that I'm talking about, Jobs and Bezos and, Elon Musk, et cetera. But like, again, these are just bigger examples. Like what they're doing, just take it, get granular, or get, significantly more, go micro, macro, but that's macro. So what does that mean? Like, how can I emulate that? How can I duplicate that on a really, 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 really small scale? But how can I do it? And I don't know, maybe that's a good question, but remember, look, don't say, what should I do? Again, I get that question. I've said this a lot. Karl, what do I do? I literally, back on our private Facebook group, I answered this over the weekend, and just somebody was asking the question. I can't remember quite what it was, but I just answered back, look, I get it, but you got to answer me this question first. What do you want? Right? Little red arrow, you are here. We got to establish the red arrow, you are here, and we got to establish what you want. And once you definitively define what it is that you want, everything becomes easy, right? And then you'll be able to take the Musk, the Jobs, the Bezos examples and drill down really, really clearly, or at least I think that, right? So again, just real quick, you guys haven't heard me say it before. I believe the power of what I'm about to say is incredible. Kobe Bryant late great, right? Missed the, not that I miss him. I don't know the guy at all, but you know what I mean? Like Kobe Bryant, so sad that he passed away, young family, et cetera, et cetera. But Kobe Bryant knew exactly what he wanted. He wanted to be the greatest basketball player of all time. And he didn't want Road Dogg to think he was the best. He didn't want me to think he was the best. He didn't want Michael Jordan to think he was the best. He wanted to think he was the best. That's it. That's what he wanted. And he had a very different style than like a Michael Jordan or a Shaq or whatever. And he wanted to be the best of all time. So the fact that he knew from the age of 15 that he wanted to be the greatest basketball player of all time, it made all of his decisions easy, right? Again, fight with your wife before the game? No. Take out the trash because she asked? Yes, right? Eat chocolate cake or asparagus? It's asparagus, right? Train 3 times a day or go to have beers, get hammered, and sleep all day. It's not happening, right? So when you understand that, right, and that's like, and I, like as an example, I do a lot of things super poorly, but I know exactly what it is that I want, right? Like business coaching, that's what I do. I'm not going to sell the company tomorrow. I'm not going into real estate. I'm not going to like have a conversation and get all derailed. It's not going to happen. I know exactly what it is that I want, and I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form, not pretending to be, but because I'm so clear, it's easy for me to take these big examples and have a conversation, like I said, with a guy worth like $100 million on a horrible day. I mean, this is a heavyweight on steroids, hedge fund guy. Might be listening, by the way. I love you, man. Thank you so much. But so like when I go into that conversation, I know exactly what it is that I want. It's easy for me to direct that conversation a little bit to get a little bit of value. You know what I mean? Like versus I don't know what the hell I want, and I'm going through this conversation in an exploratory way, right? Terrible. Anyway, so yeah, the experience, Road Dogg, that's really, really powerful. And then always, if you want to understand all these high level macro, big examples, and you want to get granular with it, define what it is that you want, and it'll be so much easier. And then, by the way, do that with your client, right? Your goal to take this stuff, and not just for you, but obviously this is for your clients. You got to do the same. I don't need to meet your coaching client to know they don't have a freaking clue. Like when I say they don't have a clue, times that by a bloody million. And yes, there's the anomaly, et cetera, but that's the rarity on steroids. So Road Dogg, that's my answer, bud, but I love it. Great job. What do you think?
You know what I think? I think that it's insanely undervalued what you just said. It's the lack of clarity. That's the one word that is like changed my entire life. Clarity on what you want. Because the problem is, here's the thing. Everyone's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. You lack clarity in terms of who you actually want to work with. And you perceive to understand and you guess as to what the number one problem is with your prospects, rather than actually asking them and getting very clear on what they want in their business and then filling the gap with those problems. So that's absolutely beautiful.
Totally.
Beautiful.
I agree. And it's so simple, but it's so powerful. So powerful. The fundamentals, right? Fundamentals are the fundamentals. Professional baseball player, hockey player, making 10 million or starting tomorrow. It's focus, man. It's focus. There you go. Get clear. Cool, bud.
Okay, man. Well, everybody, thanks again for tuning into another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, my boy King Karl. And if you're not on the inside that I keep alluding to and getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or just want to build a profitable coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone you think that might make a great coach. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate that you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes, Spotify, and all the other streaming services give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And that, Big Shoots, concludes another big week. Remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.